7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
All right, and welcome back to another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast, sitting here in the virtual Zoom studio, and it is the middle of the week, which means it's our golf betting show here from Las Vegas. It is myself and the Tonys, both Token and Johnson. And gentlemen, this is something I don't think I've ever seen in my years of watching golf, something we saw last week. Dustin Johnson, 30 under par for the tournament. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's more impressive, how he shot throughout the entire week or how he started on Friday and then couldn't get the ball to roll in the last 7 holes.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Scotty Scheffler, Tony Johnson shooting a 59, and it flirted with not being the lowest score of that round.
It's true. Yeah, it is interesting when you think about that. Is most of the time when you're shooting around that low, you're probably going to be well ahead of the field, but he ended up being so far back by the end. Really a remarkable tournament. I agree.
So let me ask you this, guys. I know that it's kind of a question that's been going around, and it's obviously a polarizing question, so I'll pose this to you guys. When you see 30 under par, when you see guys winning at 25 under par, it tends to bring out the question of, do we want to make courses harder? Do we want to make courses longer? Is it fair? Is it entertaining? And sometimes people are like, look, I want to see the guy win at 4 or 5 under par, have to make some shots, have to get himself out of some troubles. And those other guys are like, we just love birdie fever. We got birdie fever. So Token, what do you think? I mean, are you more of I know that it probably is probably a combination of them, but I can see both sides in a sense of competition wise, but what do you think? Are you more leaning toward the favor of okay with a guy shooting 30 under par, or do you want to see these guys every week, kind of finish around 8 to 10 or even like 6 to 8?
Me personally, I'm fine with the birdie fever every once in a while, like about once out every 5 to 7 events. But I like the grind them out style, the thicker rough, the faster greens, these harder hole locations like on a slope where it's going to make you read these perfectly as well as stroke it perfectly to find the hole.
Title of your sex tape.
Yeah. It's a good title, yeah. No, I'm in the same camp, basically the same. I like having a nice mix of tournaments that are, more difficult, a little bit easier, different types of grass, different types of areas of the country. It's nice to see high elevation golf. It's nice to see stuff sea level, desert courses, kind of inland parkland style course that we're going to see here. That's actually relatively wide open. Funny enough with the way the course is designed. So yeah, I mean, it's just nice to see a whole array and mix of things. I would like to see the easier courses they're going to play that we know are on the easier side, if they did a little bit more to make them more difficult, if they shaved off sides of greens. So if you really did miss a green, if you really did put in a bad spot, you really got penalized badly. I think that would be good. We're still going to see low scores because it's an easier course and it's a good setup, but I just wish they did a little bit more of that, I think. But no, I like having the mix. I think there's a few too many shootouts in this day and age, but the mix is where it's at for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. And the thing I saw on social media after the round, after DJ's performance, was that tournaments like this do nothing for guys, help them prepare for the majors that have the more or the less ideal conditions. And playing tournaments like this, they say, you practice like you play, even though these are real tournaments, but leading up to majors, which is, I wouldn't say, Tiger, that used to be all him for like a 10-year stretch. It was like majors and maybe a few sprinkled tournaments. But these guys, the question or the thing that was said on social media was that courses like this, when it allows you to go 30 under par in 4 days, they don't prepare you. And these guys struggle in courses that, aren't like this. We saw, we see 30 under par, but then we see these guys bitching about Shinnecock Hills when they're, +1, +2. I know that they're not directly correlated, but they might have a point with that. With these things don't lead you up to being successful at the harder courses. But does that mean we want to see hard courses every week? Well, that's the $1 million question. Some people are on the camp where they want to see them struggle, and maybe they want to see them closer to the average of a recreational golfer. But I think there's other people who enjoy the fact that these professionals have the ability to go 20, 30 under par when, Dustin Johnson made more birdies this weekend than some people have ever made playing golf in their life. So yeah, that's me. So anyways, you see a score like this and it always brings up that polarizing argument. It's not quite the MJ LeBron argument, but it's always the harder or easier course argument. And I think both you guys kind of nailed on the head. Some weeks we like to see this like all-star weekend where we can get 30 under par, 19, 20 under par. I mean, imagine being, was it Harris English, 19 under par and just getting lapped. I mean, you're second place, but you're second place by double digits.
You take out DJ's second round and he's tied first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's remarkable. Yeah.
So the funny thing I got from this weekend is Kevin Kisner, which we all love Kisner. And, I've gained an affinity for him from just watching him doing this podcast and his time on the Barstool Foreplay podcast. I don't know if you guys have listened to that or watched those videos. Those are great. Basically, after they interviewed him and talked about Dustin Johnson, and he basically said, when DJ's shooting like that, I just get out of the way and try to put as much money in my wallet as I can. I think he finished 4th this weekend. It's kind of a funny thing. It's like Wayne Gretzky, a Tom Brady, a Michael Jordan. It's like, I'm not catching that guy. I'm just hoping to maybe finish in a respectable spot there. And I mean, T4, nothing wrong with that. I think he finished 17 under par, which again, you shoot 17, 18, 19 under par, you're going to win most weeks, but not this one.
It definitely was a good quote and well said this week. I mean, DJ had a miracle week. I mean, it's something that we might not ever see the rest of our golf watching lives unless they make the courses incredibly easy, where it's going to be 25 under for barely sniffing the top 5 or something, and
I hope not.
Drivable par 4s. Like, it's, in my opinion, and even the golfers probably don't even want that every week because that puts even more pressure on them to. I mean,
it leaves you no room for error. I mean, look at Rory McIlroy last week. Tony talked about him winning the, potential to win the tournament, had potential action on him. And he was 2 under par and a virtual afterthought. He wasn't even, I don't think I watched the final two rounds and I don't even think he was mentioned, or I don't remember even seeing him on the telecast. Yeah,
I mean, he played with Tiger in those last 2 rounds as well, and you didn't even really hear about very, very much of either one of them. So, yeah, it's remarkable. And, what you guys are saying is dead on. It's nice to see Kisner being honest, at least. I think a lot of guys are probably thinking that, but aren't necessarily going to say it. Even the great players in the world, you're not going to catch a guy, that just gets that hot. I don't, not that Kisner's a very fine player. And I even think the top end players like, Justin Thomas is not going to be able to catch a guy like DJ when he gets that hot. It's just not going to happen. So, I'm with you 100%. And you brought up a good point, Aaron, earlier about the whole practicing and getting used to certain conditions. And I totally agree with you. I think you get used to trying to play in tougher conditions for certain types of tournaments. And then you have to go out and play a lot of events like this where it's a total shootout and your home club may not be, set up like that. A lot of these guys play at pretty difficult private clubs and it's just tough to prepare. I couldn't agree more. I thought it was a good point.
One misstep can put you out of a tournament like this.
Yeah.
2 under, even par round. And I mean, look at DeChambeau this week.
Yeah, what really made Kisner say that is because he used to play a lot on the junior tournaments with DJ and know how well he played on the junior tournaments against DJ, as well as DJ just ripping apart fields and all that. And he's kind of used to it almost.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that DJ can be one of the best players in the world. When
he's on, he's
when the flat
top
sticks
5 for sure.
So, all right, well, let's switch over to a guy who, Phil Mickelson here, made his Champions Tour debut. He's leading currently going into the last round as we record. Now, this obviously airs Wednesday night. It would be over. We assume he's probably going to win. He's 17 under par going into the final round. Are we going to see Phil maybe switch his focus over to just majors and the Champions Tour, a la like Freddie Couples style and stuff? Because it seems like Phil's not really super competitive anymore in the PGA circuit, and that's okay. He's still an entertaining draw. He's still TV. The TV cameras like him. But I don't know if the competitor in him would maybe stick to, hey, stick to what you're good at. And right now that's being good at the Champions Tour. I know it's only one event and I don't want to just jump to a conclusion. But, you're talking about a guy who, while not competitive on the PGA Tour, definitely hung in there. And that should usually give you an advantage. That's why Jim Furyk's first tour, he was the favorite without ever playing on the Champions Tour. So my thought process is that I think that Phil may have a new situation here where he's going to mostly play Champions Tour and also maybe look into getting into that broadcasting gig that we all thought he was so good at the PGA Championship.
It's going to be interesting to see what he does. I think he still definitely plays a select few events on the PGA Tour that he's very interested in, such as like the Players, probably the WGC, Waste Management, stuff like that. And but the way he's starting on the Champions Tour, he has possibility for almost a dynasty of that tour, almost, it seems. It's still early in that career and all that, and definitely his first tournament, as well as Rich Beam, his first tournament. He was eligible on Monday to play, and Monday was the first start, so it's kind of interesting to see them both making their debuts this week, and it's good to see Phil starting off hot, and he's got the short game when he needs it. And
yeah, between Mickelson and Beam, one's a little more decorated than the other.
Yes, but Beam had the 2002 tournament
the PGA.
The International PGA, like back to back.
Yeah, and International, he had a huge sweat because the albatross for the guy that finished second, can't remember his name.
Steve Lowry, I believe.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, the eagle and then albatross to get into the lead, and then Beam just ended up fading it. So
it was great. Yeah, it was a good tournament. That was enjoyable. I remember that vividly.
Yeah. Tony, did you catch the odds for Phil to win this tournament this week?
Yeah, it looks like he opened at 2-1, which is sort of what we thought would be the realm, especially when you see a lot of these guys that come in. They open around 3 or 4-1. Jim Furyk was 4. This course I thought fit him pretty well. Doing some research for the course, and the only thing I'll take, based on your question, Aaron, is I will disagree with you guys in the sense that I don't think this is going to be a tour for him going down the road, at least in the short term. Phil's talked about how well he's playing. It hasn't shown necessarily in the last month or two. He's talked about going home back to his club in Rancho Santa Fe and playing extremely well and just not coming out here on the PGA Tour and showing that same type of play. But the courses are set up differently. It's a lot easier. I don't know. He talked about that a little bit at this tournament in Missouri about, pins being in spots where you can get the ball to the hole a lot easier. On the PGA Tour, that's not the case. And I think his competitive spirit and the way he is and how he wants to compete and the competition to him is really at paramount. While I agree with you that he's not going to be able to probably win and or be a top end player anymore, I think he's going to be on the PGA Tour for as long as he can. So
I'm not saying he wouldn't play the PGA Tour still. Obviously he's got exemptions into a lot of tournaments. I just, let me use an analogy here for you in the poker world. So if you played the WSOP and you're basically a min cash master. You're Alan Kessler, so to speak. And, that's kind of where you are for the remainder of your time, playing the WSOP. You may have a decent run here or there. You may make final 3 tables. Or you can go to the Heartland Poker Tour and basically you can win 10, 15 events a year. Which feels better to you, or which route would you go?
I'm not sure. I would probably want to play at the top end, at the top level, just because, again, I'm just a competitor. I love competition more than anything else, so I kind of understand what Phil's talking about in that sense, and I won't get the same satisfaction from winning in smaller events, smaller fields, smaller situations than you would winning or competing at the top level. And I believe Phil still thinks he can win at this level. I think if we had him on this podcast, I think he would honestly, legitly tell us that he believes he can win and compete with the great players at this level.
Well, I don't think he would legitimately tell us he couldn't.
Well, that's what. But I mean, if he believes he can, if he really truly believes he can, then there's no way he's gonna not.
No, but I mean, the
play.
thing is a poker player can both play Heartland and WSOP as well. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you're relegated, but I'm saying that you've been playing the WSOP min caching for a while, and then all of a sudden you do play a Heartland Poker Tour event and you do win it, and then you play another one and you win that one. I would just wonder if maybe he'll start focusing more energy and time toward the Champions Tour. Just a theory, generally. I'm just curious. I feel like, the amount of money for winning Heartland Poker Tour, and again, it's not all about money for Phil, but the amount of money winning Heartland Poker Tour titles has got to be better than min cashing WSOP events. So.
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe that is correct. And I mean, you still have some big names that do play the Heartland Poker Tour, in my opinion, and some reasonably deep fields. But however, it's no WSOP. It's not as prestige. It might be more select handful of people that do those tours instead of the WSOP where it's worldwide known and all that.
Yeah, I mean, being the best player in the Heartland Poker Tour history is like being the all-time home run leader in Double A. I feel it's kind of the similar
Kind
thing.
of, yeah.
Crash Davis, yeah, there you go.
So, all right, let's move forward. We've got the BMW Championship this week. Tony Johnson, you are very familiar with this course. It is the second week of the FedEx Cup, as we mentioned prior. Dustin Johnson won last week with a -30 total score. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that put him number 1 in the FedEx Cup standings. So moved Justin Thomas down a little bit. So this week, again, we are at Olympia Fields, just outside of Chicago in Illinois. Yeah, so we are going to lose 40 players in this field. We will go to the Tour Championship with the top 30. Before we get into the course outline of Olympia Fields, the one thing I do want to talk about is we are losing the number 3 player in the FedEx Cup rankings. Webb Simpson has withdrawn due to wanting to rest up for the Tour Championship. Again, number 3, probably going to drop. Many sources say he probably won't drop outside of the top 10. Is this a smart move for Webb Simpson?
I mean, he might not play well on this course. In my opinion, this course does not match up to his game. He kind of struggles with
which can hurt him more, playing poorly or not playing at all.
Both in theory, but I think playing poorly and playing all 4 rounds might hurt him more than actually not playing and struggling, and where he can rest up, build up more of his energy, maybe play similar courses for the Tour Championship, just getting ready for that as well as mentally. Okay.
Tony, is this a smart move here for Webb to withdraw from the spot?
Well, without knowing how he's feeling physically, and that's always something that it's hard to talk about because we're not in his body, we don't know how he is feeling. But taking that aside, I think it makes a lot of sense for a few reasons. I mean, Token touched on a few, but the fact that it's 4 guaranteed rounds that he would have to play. Now, I know that's a guaranteed check too, so it kind of shows the state of the game that if you're a top player, these checks are not as meaningful as it would be to some other guys. But taking that aside, I think it's a great idea. Again, this is a grueling, difficult course. It's a long 4 days plus the practice rounds and everything else that goes into it. He's not from the area. He can go back home essentially in North Carolina and then have to travel only a very short distance to Atlanta for the next week. It makes a whole lot of sense to me, especially if that makes where you feel good. I know he's got 3 or 4 children, and maybe that's where he loves to be. Like a lot of people do. He seems to be a family man and a pretty good guy. So I like it. I love the move, and if it recharges, him and gets him ready to go, I think he could do some damage, certainly next week. And all it takes is a top finish and a little bit of help from the others, and you can win this thing from 8, 9, 10, or wherever that he'll end up being. So I think it makes a lot of sense in my book.
Very fair. All right, I didn't see it that way, but it's a great explanation of it because you're right. An extra week off may end up being something that's beneficial to a guy like Webb Simpson. And the short travel. You mentioned a grueling course, a tough course here in Olympia Fields, and just outside Chicago in Illinois. So let's go ahead and break down that course, Tony, as you do every week.
Sure, yeah. So Olympia Fields has a few courses on site. They're going to be playing on the North Course, which is actually the only one that I've seen. I was out there for the 2003 U.S. Open, and then as well for an event a few years after that. And I left the event early and walked a bunch of holes on the course just for fun. Probably not allowed to do so. But it's just such a beautiful property and one of my favorite places to be. So, yeah, I mean, it's every bit of difficult as we saw back in that 2003 U.S. Open that Jim Furyk won, and even the 2015 U.S. Amateur, which some people I know do like to watch. It's going to be set up actually a little bit harder, from what I understand, and just a difficult test on all regards. So it's a Parkland style, kind of regular, standard looking Midwestern course, a classic design, as many would say, that has a lot of rolling hills and a ton of undulation. So if you think of Chicago, you think of generally flat Midwestern type of land. This is a little bit higher up. This moves up and down from up to about 1,500 feet in elevation at certain spots. So you're going to actually see, this is not an easy course to walk either. I spent 14 hours straight that day in 2003, and I was very, very, very fatigued afterwards, and I didn't even play. So, yeah, certainly a tough test in that sense. It's really a course that is demanding off the tee and into these greens, which is really nice. Usually on the tour, we see kind of one or the other, not as tough off the tee, but more of a second shot course or vice versa. This is demanding on both regards. So going to play 7,366 yards. It's just a par 70. So one of the longest par 70s you're ever going to find out here, just two par 5s. Very similar to Firestone Country Club where they used to play the WGC at. Very, very long par 70 and difficult in every regard. Rough is going to be grown to 4 inches this week. I know Token and I were talking about that a little bit off the air. It's going to be pretty remarkable how difficult this will be. This is set up just like it was the U.S. Open. I went back and looked at the U.S. Open where the rough was. It was 4 to 4.5 inches in the U.S. Open. So, yeah, really, really tough. Missing fairways, and the fairways are about standard in regards to width.
Maybe a little more narrow than average.
Maybe a touch more narrow, and that's a good point you bring up. They've actually brought in a few of the fairways, 3 or 4 fairways, from what I understand, since 2015. They did a little bit of renovation out there, so actually might be even a little bit tighter than normal. So you're talking about a little bit tighter, extremely long, and punishing rough. So we won't see any 30 unders or anything like that this week. That's for sure.
No, it's going to be a very tough week for these guys. You miss the fairway, you might be in trouble.
Agreed completely. Greens about 6,000 square feet, which is about average in regards to tour standards. But again, something else that Token and I were talking about is that they'll run at about 12.5 on the stimp meter, which is actually faster on average than most of the courses that they're playing throughout the year. So we just have a lot of things at work here, which are going to be difficult. So again, what are we looking for in a place like this? Well, I think the cream of the crop, the great ball strikers extraordinaire. And what makes it even more important, I think, to be a great ball striker is that guys that are not used to being on this course and the lack of knowing the greens at all, I actually think hampers the better putters more so than anything else, because guys that are just seeing greens for the first time kind of keeps everybody in the same ballpark. So it becomes a ball striking contest more than anything else, both off the tee and into the green. And that's pretty much where it is. So I'm looking forward to it just in that sense. It's a beautiful place. It's one of my favorite courses. I'm excited about that. Going to take a little bit of a hands-off approach with futures here, just because numbers are so much tighter with only a 70-person field and the lack of a cut. I'm not as big of a fan in no-cut events, so I'm focusing much more on matchups, on Token's bread and butter here this week, and staying a little bit off of futures. I do have some futures, but we're going to see a real true test here. And I'm not thinking that anything more than 11 or 12 under will win this thing. That would be my guess if I'd take
that. Was right around my number that I had. I had the 10 to 12 range, in my opinion, and it might be a 2-shot victory.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's breeze through this because I want to talk about the feature groups. They're basically teeing off in the order of their FedEx Cup standings, which makes for some very interesting groups and some maybe less. But Token, I'm going to read you a few of these featured groups. The first group is the 1, 2, 3. Well, actually, it's the 1, 2, 4 with Webb Simpson withdrawing. DJ, Justin Thomas, and Daniel Berger. We have Tiger Woods, Bubba Watson, and Carlos Ortiz. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, and Brendan Todd. Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, and Harris English. 4 very intriguing groups to watch, but if you could only follow one, Token, which one would you do?
Ooh, that one's a tough
That's
one,
tough.
especially between those last two groups, and that's my main focus to watch. But if I only have one to watch, it might be the Morikawa, DeChambeau, and English tea time for sure. I mean, you got Morikawa that's excellent with ball striking. You got DeChambeau who's got that power hitter and just mental fierceness in him. He's got aggression. He's not afraid to risk it.
For the
And
listener.
Harris English, that's you know what to expect out of him,
Kid's
and
been playing well.
yeah, and he might be in it for a deep run. So
What about you, Tony? Those four groups, which one would you, if you could only follow
Yeah,
one?
I'll take a rare chalk binge here, and I'll go with the chalk and with DJ Thomas and Berger. I'd like to see how DJ responds after the last big win last week. I don't think he's generally a guy that's affected by that very much. He's a very cool, calm, and collected dude. I don't think it'll have much of a bearing on what's going on. He seems to handle pressure really well, but it's still going to be interesting to watch. I think this course fits Justin Thomas beautifully as well, certainly with his ball striking ability. And his lack of really putting prowess, even from the win at TPC Southwind in Memphis, he didn't putt well that week, and he still won. So I think that will help him a little bit here too, with the lack of knowledge in these greens. Um, and then, Daniel Berger, who actually has a good record here from his time in college, and I'm going to probably bring that up a little bit going forward because this is a regular event they play, that the college teams play, and they always play in the North Course here too. So I actually think that matters a lot. Besides the 2015 U.S. Amateur that was here that DeChambeau won, I think it'll mean something. Having knowledge of a course like this, it's this difficult, I think will help a lot, especially these guys that just recently played it, like Matthew Wolff and Victor Hovland and such. So, yeah, I mean that's the group that I would follow. Intrigued. It's always fun to watch Daniel Berger play too, who's just been absolute nails since the restart. So, yeah, that you can't go wrong with any of these four certainly, but that would be the one that I would follow.
A couple other interesting groups of note. You got the polarizing group of John Rahm, Patrick Reed, and Sung J M. Not necessarily him per se, but that's another group that
Yep.
If you put Reed, Rahm, and DeChambeau in a group, that might be the best. That might be must-see TV right there.
Yeah.
You got Adam Scott, Gary Woodland, and Nick Taylor also in a group. And another group I think Token would be interested in watching is the Hideki Matsuyama, Tyrrell Hatton, and Abraham Answer, because every week Token's got money on Abraham Answer. So I think that would be a group Token would love to watch. So, all right, well, let's move into that futures. Since we don't have a lot in the futures market here, we are going to probably breeze through them pretty quickly. We'll start with the favorites here. Token, I'll start with you, and then move over to Tony for each of these tiers. The favorites, we're going to, again, like last week, we'll shrink down our clumps here a little bit, and the favorites in the middles and the long shots will have a little bit bigger of a selection. The favorites here, Dustin Johnson is the favorite at 8-1 to repeat this week. And it's going to move that all the way from Dustin Johnson at 8-1 to Victor Hovland at 30-1. Odds provided by William Hill, Nevada. Who do you like in this here favorite group?
I do have two names on this list, and I'm not sure if they're very good value in my opinion. But however, the first one I believe is somewhat reasonable value, and that's Morikawa at 22-1. I do see some reasonable value on him, especially the way he's been striking. He's fairly accurate off the tee as well as proximity to the hole, from fairway to green, and decent length as well. And the second one I have is Hovland. I know he's pretty familiar with this course, has played pretty well in his history on this course. So at 31, I see somewhat decent value on that. Not sure if I like it as much as the Morikawa pick, though.
Yeah, this is a tough grouping here, especially since Simpson withdrew. We had some of these numbers actually creep back down. Well, funny enough, McIlroy opened at 18 and remained at 18 despite Simpson withdrawing. So it gives you an idea of where everybody stands on Rory at this point, which, again, I'm not looking to back him and thankfully did not go through with that one last week. I mean, it would have been just another bet I would have lost, to be honest with you. But yeah, so, I don't have anybody in this group that I'm going to be betting. I'm certainly very focused on matchups, very focused on some of these guys with matches. But yeah, there's just not enough value here, I don't think. If I had to choose somebody from here who I think will win the tournament, who fits the best, I think Xander Schauffele, it fits the best. I know I bet on him 5 times since we've been doing the restart. I get it. But at 14-1, where he is here, I just don't think there's enough value. But that would be my pick to win the tournament if I had to. So I'll just go with that since I don't have anybody else.
Yeah. Do you know what he was before Simpson dropped? Was it closer to 20?
He was 16 here on William Hill.
Yeah, that's still
and
not even then. Yeah.
it's just not good enough. And the number came down. I think it opened a few places at 20. I wasn't interested in at 20, but
Yeah.
the fit makes a lot of sense. He does his best work in difficult fields on difficult courses, and this is ball striking extraordinaire. So, yeah.
All right, fair enough. Let's move into the middle tier. At the beginning of the middle tier, I see Tiger Woods, and we'll move it all the way down. He's 35-1. Move it all the way down to Cam Champ, who is at 70-1. This is the odds provided by William Hill, Nevada, at the time of our recording. So, Tiger to Champ.
Yeah, and this one, there's not good value in my opinion on this grouping either. But however, I've got to go with Kisner at 50 is probably my best pick in this grouping.
Kisner money.
Yeah, and I don't even like it. It's probably not even going to be a bet for me, but that's probably the only tip of the cap that I say on this one, in this field. And even though you have Answer and you have Norton, but I just don't think they have enough to get the job done in this field and under that pressure.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. We got more Kisner money. You can flash that across the screen again if we're doing the Kisner money deal. But yeah, 50 is just too good of a number to pass up. He's basically 40, 45 max if you really look around the world. And just 50 is too good here at William Hill. So I did sprinkle a little bit on the 50. And I did find Patrick Cantley. He's 35 here at William Hill, which is actually a very good number. I found him at 38 at another spot here in Las Vegas. And 38 was enough for me. I think we've come down enough on Cantley. He has not played all that well the last 2 or 3 weeks. And that's the exact time. It has a reminder a little
Missed
bit
the
of John.
cut last week, right?
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of John Rahm, going into the Memorial where he had, 3 straight, top 40s type of thing, nothing really happening. Ball striking was a little bit rough. He had a couple of bad holes here in the last tournament, the Northern Trust, and just never really recovered from that. Very similar to how McIlroy's tournament was. But it's actually his ball striking and his putting wasn't all that bad. I just think that the course fits beautifully for Cantley this week. He's not nearly as good in shootout type of formats, but he is here. And if things do come together, he is very capable of stringing together 4 very high quality rounds, not having to worry about a cut this week. I like Cantley here. So, yeah, even at 35, I would definitely be betting Cantley. So those are my 2 guys at these numbers.
All right, well, let's move into the long shots. And starting the long shots, we have Arnold Palmer's illegitimate grandchild, Ryan Palmer. Oh, that's not right. Ryan Palmer at 80-1 here. So 80-1 and beyond, all the way down to Tom, is it Hogue or Hogg? At 250-1 here. That's your selection of long shots here.
Yeah, I actually have a few on this list, and mainly what I'm looking for is driving accuracy off the tee. And the first one that comes to my mind in this group is Brendan Todd. He's number 3 with finding fairway accuracy, and he's played it probably the third most amount of rounds on tour this whole season. I mean, he's incredibly good off the tee with accuracy, reasonable distance, and proximity to the hole from about 150 to 200. He's probably top 10 on tour right now. So definitely one to look at. Another tip of the cap to Corey Connors. Reasonable, accurate off the tee, a little more distance with Connors. Struggles playing out of the rough, though. So not as much as Todd. And then probably my favorite pick so far in this is Streelman again this week at 200-1. I really like him off the tee. He's very accurate. He has decent knowledge of this course coming into this. He knows what to avoid off the tee with hazards and finding more flatter spots in the fairway. So
He's played incredible since the restart.
Yeah, he has. He's probably one of the top 5 since the restart.
It feels like it. I don't have those stats
great
in front of me, but yeah, he's been
Yeah,
really...
and I'm surprised he's that high in value still. I mean, last week he started off good, finished a little rough, but if he finds one good round and 3 decent rounds, he'll come away with a victory. So
Yeah, he's played here a few times throughout his life. I know that he just talked about that on Twitter a little bit. He's from the area, he's from the western suburb of Chicago, but yeah, I mean, he's played here a bunch, and I know he loves the course. So yeah, as you said, if he's got it, if he's on, he's as streaky as it comes, and so you want to be on guys like that. I couldn't agree more, Token. He was one of the three guys I noted here. I haven't bet any of these. I don't know if I'm going to, but he came up at 200 for sure. Robbie Shelton is another name at 200. Guy that's got a really good history here. He played here back in the U.S. Open in 2015. I think he got to the quarterfinals of the match play, and then also won tournament here when in college as well. Also had a couple other top tens too. We played here 3 different times in college. He's familiar with the course, and he really likes difficult, tough tracks. I know if you look at his results this year on the PGA Tour, he's done actually best in those difficult times. The only exception would be recently, actually, at the 3M, which was not a difficult test, and he had a really nice week. But besides that, he's a tough test kind of guy. And then my last guy is Maverick McNeely at 250. I know he's putting, chipping extraordinaire, and that's not necessarily what you want at this course. But he won here twice in college at Stanford, and I'm just not. I want to be on guys that have done really well here in the past, especially recently, because he's a recent college grad for the most part. I think there's a lot to be said for that. Again, I haven't bet it yet at 250, but if we can find a matchup, and I'm going to try against a player I'm not as on, that would be a really, really good spot. So especially in a no-cut event. So that's where I'm at, but I haven't bet any of these guys, and I'm not sure I'm going to. I only have the 2 bets from the middle range.
All right, so that is your futures odds. Not a heavy futures week for the guys here because, like you said, with a 70-player field and no cut, it is not as easy to just pluck a winner out as it is in some other weeks. So, all right, well, you guys talked about your heavy matchup action. Token, why don't you start that off? Matchups, props, finish bets, etc.
Yeah, and first one on my list is kind of surprising. The value on him is actually DJ, and he's facing John Rahm this week. And he's actually even, actually, as the favorite coming into this week. I think what he did last week signifies that he's actually in decent health, playing very well. He's not going to win this week, but however, he's going to perform fairly decent. And Rahm, I just don't see doing well on this course. I'm anti-Rahm this week, and at even money, that's even a plus. Noren over Oosthuizen on this one. Oosthuizen definitely needs to do very well this week to even catch inside the top 30. He had a birdie 18 last week to even make this tournament, and I like Noren at even money. Noren's been playing fairly well since the restart, and he actually plays better on these types of courses. Matsuyama over Hatton on this one at minus 105. And my last one currently is Finau over Day at plus 110.
Nice. Yeah, I have 2 that I've already bet, and a few others that I'm considering. But I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch here. So Patrick Cantlay over Tiger Woods, minus 130. It's about the highest I'll go betting a matchup, minus 130. But I just think he's going to win by too many shots in this one. If there was a shot number I could give, like minus 1.5 or something like that, I would take it here. This is a bad spot here for Woods. You need too much game for this one, and too much play for him in a row. I just don't like the spot here, and I think Patrick Cantlay is ready to go. He's 37th right now in the FedEx Cup. He knows he needs a good week to get in the top 30. I think this is going to be a good week for Patrick Cantlay. Xander Schauffele over Rory McIlroy, minus 120. If you said that Xander Schauffele would be a minus 120 favorite over McIlroy in a tournament maybe 6 months ago, I think people would have looked at you like you might have had a few screws loose. But
or a stroke.
Yeah, something like that.
If you blindly bet it, you'd probably be up on the money.
For sure. But again, I like the spot here for Xander. I think he's the guy to win the tournament if I had to pick one. And, Rory has not been playing well, certainly. It's just a good one here. So, yeah, minus 120. I'm all in for this one. Those are my 2.
Oh, what were some ones you were thinking?
Yeah, so I'm considering, it's interesting that you brought up the whole John Rahm deal, Token, because I think John Rahm fits this course really well. He's also played well here in college too. It's just I don't know. That's where I would be. I don't think I want to lay the heavy favorite spot there against DJ. So I'm trying to find another place for him. But I'm looking to get a bet on John Rahm somewhere. And then the other one that I was considering here is Adam Scott over Tiger Woods as well, -110 at Westgate. It's not that I'm on the big anti-Tiger train here. It's just I like the guys that he's up against a lot. I think Adam Scott fits the profile well. So that was the other one I was considering. And Kevin Kisner's a dog to Harris English too, which I'm not quite sure that should be the case either. Two top fives in his last two tournaments for Kisner as well. And that's not just English that's playing really well. So he's a tough out in these things, and he's just not going to give in or give up. English has never been a guy. He's never closed well. I know he had a great tournament last week, no doubt about it, but he's just not a big-time closer, and Kisner is. So those are the ones I'm considering.
I have one last one I'm considering as well as Answer over Fitzpatrick at even money.
There it is.
He made the podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
Kisner money, Answer money.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, so let's move on to, as we do every week recently, we are letting Token give us some Yahoo daily fantasy lineups, and it's been going relatively well.
Yeah, last
week was a little tough, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't as well as the previous week, but however, biggest disappointment of last week was probably DeChambeau just not even making the weekend.
Yeah, surprising.
So, all right.
And this week is a very exciting one, and there's only a couple towards the top that I like. The rest are basement dwellers on this one, so...
All right, so as he does every week, he starts with a $200 budget. Again, this is Yahoo Daily Fantasy because it's the only one eligible to really be played in Nevada, so we use that one. But I'm sure the numbers are pretty similar to DraftKings, FanDuel, et cetera, anywhere you find your daily fantasy. So without further ado, Token, why don't you go ahead and give us this week's daily fantasy lineup brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy.
All right, listeners, fasten your seatbelts. Brace yourself for the ride. Starting off with...
Wait. I got to fasten my seatbelt.
Okay. Starting off this week, we got Justin Thomas, $48. He's definitely going to make a top 10 this week. Very, very interesting to watch him. He's going to be very good at putting this week. Well worth the 48 of the 200. All right. Next on this list is Daniel Berger at 43. He just made the cusp. He was my last pick. I mean, I was between him and I can't remember who else. It was some other basement dweller, but yeah.
It was between a $43 guy and a basement dweller.
Basement dweller.
It was between him and a $20 person. I think it was Corey Connors, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And I have a little more faith in Berger this week.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. My next closest one is Hovland at 34. And then here comes the nosedive. We got Todd at 26. He's going.
That was my nosedive.
Yeah, I mean.
Still on the roller coaster, Token.
Yeah.
Oh, my picture.
Well, we got the champ there, so I mean. And the rest, we got top 5 for Streelman. He's at $20. And then Noren with a top 20. At $20, so.
Oh, we went into props there. Okay, what just happened?
No. Noren's going to get a top 20, but be outside the top 10. But that's going to be enough for his value, and not a lot of people are going to be on them this week.
Oh, what does he cost though?
Oh, yeah.
$20.
Oh, okay. Oh, 20. Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you recap that lineup for us?
Okay, so we got JT at 45, Berger at 43, Hovland at 34, Todd at 26. Streelman and Noren both at 20 apiece.
All right.
We're coming to the end of the ride.
Yeah, that did slow down at the end.
Thank you for riding the Token Express.
There you go. I'm gonna go check my picture. Are you gonna charge me $38 for it?
Plus tax, sir.
Oh, plus tax. Oh man. At least you have free Wi-Fi in the park, so you're not that greedy. All right. So as we wrap it up here, we got a couple more minutes left in the podcast that went off the rails a little bit. As we do every week, we give you some bets from the other tours as well. I know these guys love some little extra action on the other tours. Champions Tour obviously happened earlier in the week. So we got about 30 seconds each here, Token. I'll start with you with your bets for the other tours.
Okay, so Corn Ferry, we got the Corn Ferry Championship this week. Of course, it's going to be Perndorf this week at 33-1.
Sound like the Swedish chef. Perndorf.
Moving into the LPGA, we got the Northwest Arkansas Championship. We got Ellie McDonald at 75. Quite almost went with Northwest again this week, but not sure if that course sits well up for her. So, and then moving to the UK Championship of the Euro Tour, we got 2 on this list. We got Danny Will at 20-1, and then we got Pepperell at 70-1. I really like the Pepperell at 70.
That seems good. Yes, I only have LPGA. I'll be quick. Lydia Ko at 20, been playing lights out. Won here in 2016. Celine Boutier, my girl, 40-1 that you can find at all of your closest shops. Moria Jutanagarn at 50. Austin Ernst at 50. And 2 matchups: Lydia Ko over Nelly Korda, -115, and Brittany Altamir against Carlotta Saganda, +105. We'll take the money.
All right, fair enough. We are very excited for this weekend's BMW Championship. Get your bets in. Hopefully we can help you win some money. I want to thank the sponsors here. Real quick, first and foremost, 12 Ounce Sports Network and Zingo TV, where we are aired in both audio and visual formats. Check us out on Zingo every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's our new time slot for the Golf Podcast, channel 761. If you do not have a Zingo TV account and you're watching this on YouTube or at LV Squares, please sign up for one. It helps out the podcast. It helps out the channel. You can get a free account using promo code 120Z when you sign up for a new account. And also, I want to thank our other sponsors, Fanatics.com, Wicked Cuts Jerky, DC4L Custom Tees, Pro-Am Customizations, and Chai Poker, and obviously our biggest sponsor here for the Golf Podcast, Vice Golf. They have been scrolling across the screen. You've been reading them. If you want to check them out, check out our sponsors page again at LV Squares. So for that, I will say on behalf of Token Tony and Tony Johnson, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next one, and good luck on your bets.
Uh-huh.